This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Queenpin 2.0, Part 4. When we left off, Tru, Rennie, and Selima were explaining to the Queen Mother how Donovan and Rennie ended up in Venezuela. Selima had gone on a rogue mission to find her Aunt Jira, and she'd taken Tru along for the ride. Unfortunately, she was under the incorrect assumption that her Aunt Jira was in Venezuela. And 5.5 months later, at the round table, the Queen Mother asked, "Did you find out before or after my Andy's funeral that Jira was not in the hands of the Venezuelans?" Manny cut in and said, "When you agreed to hold Anders' funeral on the island, we went into action. There was no way that Anders could be put to rest in his hometown and all of our associates and business partners not come out and pay homage." When Selima saw the man that she suspected was in on Jira's kidnapping, she told me, and I called a meeting. The Queen Mother said Selima wasn't at the funeral, and Manny looked at Selima. 5 months and 1 week earlier. The Queen Mother said to Q, "Are you sure?" Q said, "Positive. For a variety of reasons, it's not a good idea for both of your sons to be there. And I'm sure we can work around some of it, but I'm not leaving Angela and the children." When Angela delivered the twins at 34.5 weeks, Quincy V, also known as V, was a little over 4 pounds, and Isla Cheryl was only 3.5 pounds. They were both in the NICU, and Isla was receiving supplemental feedings. Their pediatrician had decided that they both needed to be 5 pounds and feeding well in order to be discharged. As is customary, Angela was discharged 2 days after delivery, and she was fit to be tied. Q had to practically carry her out of that hospital. She had no idea that she wouldn't be able to stay with the twins 24 hours a day until they came home. And since she'd been home, she attended the small family and close friends only memorial service held for Pops Andy in Dallas, and was trying to settle into a routine both at home and at the hospital. She was pumping virtually around the clock, and both she and Q were doing everything they could to be home in the evenings to help the kids with their bedtime routine and to support the Queen Mother and Anya. So before the Queen Mother headed to the airport, she made a final attempt to get her oldest son to go with her to Trinidad to lay his father to rest. But Q had had all the public displays of grief he could stand, taking all of the risks that he was comfortable with as it pertained to his personal safety, and put up with all the drama from Donovan that he had the patience for. So that evening, when the Queen Mother, Donovan, baby Bella, baby Chance, Anya, and Ron landed in Trinidad, they and Pops Andy's remains were met by the heads of the 4 families, their teams, and the whole city. It looked like all of Trinidad had come out to pay homage to a legend, and the streets were filled with cars as the caravan escorted Pops Andy's body to the funeral home. The Queen Mother wasn't expecting any other family to come. Pops Andy's last will and testament stipulated that he be buried next to his parents and between her parents. But the huge lavish funeral was all the idea of the families, and they were footing the bill. Pops Andy's funeral was the event of the century. It had become a gangster's family reunion, so the families would never have their finishers and anyone whose cover might be blown in attendance. What the Queen Mother didn't know was that Selima was there. Selima and Tru were hiding in the rafters of the chapel where the funeral was being held. They had cameras and were taking pictures of every person who entered the facility. Selima was running software to identify each person and catalog them by organization. When the services ended, they snuck out and hid in Manny's car. Manny's driver knew Selima well, so when she approached, he had no issue with letting her wait in the car until Manny came out. And when he did, Selima told him all about what she'd been doing during the services, and that she suspected Jose, the head of the Venezuelan family, of having her Aunt Jira. When Manny asked her why, she said, "The last time that Aunt Jira called me, I was listening to the background. Jose has a very distinct Venezuelan accent, and I recognized it, and his voice." Donovan had inherited the distinct skill of observation. Selima's skill was being able to readily identify accents and commit the voices of people who she'd only ever spoken to once, to memory. Manny asked, "And how would you know his voice?" Selima said, "All right, so check it, right? I had a thing with his son back in the day. It wasn't nothing major. I overheard him talking to his pops on the phone a time or two." Manny just shook his head. Then he sent his right-hand man to arrange a meeting. When Manny walked into the meeting, Jose was all smiles and greetings, and Manny said, "I don't have time for pleasantries. Where is Jera Baptiste?" When Jose blanched, Manny said, "You missed your opportunity to pretend like you don't know her and you don't know anything about her whereabouts. You want to leave this island in one piece? Give me something I can use." Baby Jose ain't want no problems. He told Manny everything. The Morenas had paid him to track Jera, find her at the hospital, extract her, and fly her to Colombia. They'd also paid him to attend the funeral, which he was going to do anyway. But his job was to find out who was connected to who, see if he could spot any of the family's finishers. And in exchange, the Morena family would give him cash and work. And if his assistants helped them to solidify a spot in the 5 families, they'd offer his very small family protection and discounts on goods and services. And he said, "I know the Morenas. They'd never make an offer that vast and get so little in return. What are you leaving out? And don't make me ask you again." Then Jose admitted that he was on a retainer of sorts. He and his small band of foolish men were supposed to extract information, plant information, and frustrate the Baptiste family's attempts to locate Jera, just until the Morena family was able to broker a deal that would be to their advantage and put them in the black, because apparently they were in the red. The notorious families had something they didn't. They had connections in law enforcement and relationships with other families that dated back for generations. And all the Morenas really had was product and shooters. All it took was a few bad deals and a few well-timed busts, and their funds were coming up short. So what they were presenting as a deal that the families couldn't pass up was really a deal that they needed to stay above water. They didn't just want a seat at the table. They wanted to run the table, but they couldn't afford the war that would be required to do that. When Manny told Jose that he only had 3 options, 1, he could tell the Morenas that he'd been found out and could no longer work for them. 2, he could be a double agent and tell Manny everything that he and his peoples did to help the Morenas cement their plan. Or 3, he could take a long nap. Jose decided he'd choose what was behind door number 2. "I'll take double agent for $400, Alex." Over the next 2 months, Jose provided Manny's right-hand man with information, and the families followed up on and intercepted the actions of the Morenas. And it didn't take long for them to suspect that Jose had picked an option that was never offered to him. He decided to be a triple agent. He told the Morenas that he'd been found out, that Manny had given him an offer he couldn't refuse if he wanted to leave Trinidad and go back to Venezuela after the funeral. And then he and the Morenas doubled down on their plan. So Manny made an executive decision. Back at the round table, Manny said, as the head of the lead family, it was time that I lay down a play. Nobody really cared about getting Jera back. Samuel was just trying to right his wrongs and give you the closure that you'd asked for. But Bella, that wasn't important. The Morenas were never in contention for the 5th seat. They do shady business, snake their allies, and they've been on the United States federal government's radar entirely too much. More importantly, I don't trust them to live by our code. They need us. We don't need them. The Queen Mother said, and these 3 and Donovan were the play. Manny said no. Putting Selima in the mix was too risky. Jose's son, little Jose, is in the game now, and her previous involvement with him didn't end on amicable terms. Selima said, I told that fool I catch flights, not feelings. He didn't catch the hint, so I had to throw him back. The Queen Mother said, you and Donovan have way too much in common. Selima just shrugged. Manny said, Rennie was untested. So we couldn't send her and Tru out there alone. The only way that we could get Donovan in the field was to have him connected to one of them two romantically. Tru wasn't an option because we needed her to get close to Lil Jose. So we had Donovan and Rennie pretend to be romantically involved. The Queen Mother looked at Rennie and said, "And let me guess, y'all decided to let life imitate art?" When Rennie smirked, the Queen Mother said, "We got dead bodies, missing work, too many damn payoffs. And now the Morenas are demanding a deal, and they've upped the ante. Instead of exchanging a deal for Jira, they want to exchange a deal for evidence that'll put all of y'all in jail forever. Playtime is over." When all three of the ladies started talking all at once, the Queen Mother said, "Enough. I'm going to clean this up, and y'all are going to help me clean it up. But first, give me and Rennie the room." Rennie looked like she was about to pass out. When everybody got up and exited, the Queen Mother looked at Rennie and said, "At some point, you and Donovan are both going to have to take your mental health seriously. Donovan is in love with and on a rebound from Maribel. He hasn't done the work to heal from the things that Veronica did. And whether he has a chance with Maribel now or not, when he gets his mind right, he is going to drop you like a bad habit. Then he's going to go on an unbridled mission to get his girl back. And anything and anybody who stands in his way is going to get ran over. And that's the prospect if he's medicated. Now, I'm sure he told you that he's done with Maribel. And I know you, Rennie. The prospects of being a mother without having to be a mother are attractive to you." The Queen Mother knew all about Rennie's little escapades at LSU when she tried to kill her professor's wife and then become her replacement and his children's stepmama. Rennie said, "See, the thing is, I can't see me walking around with no big old belly and a little alien baby moving around on the inside of me. I think I want a ready-made family." The Queen Mother said, "And this is why I said you and Donovan both need to take your mental health seriously. I met your mother. She was a wonderful woman. She did the best that she could after burying her husband. I can only imagine what being born in the midst of that kind of turmoil did to your psyche in the womb and after delivery. I can imagine that you have a warped sense of family. And while you've always been the baby sister, the pet, and spoiled, you've also wanted to be independent and make a name for yourself. You're attracted to the unavailable. And you don't just tell yourself stories about the men that you pursue. You like the thrill of the chase, the danger." Rennie said, "Well, damn, no wonder they call you the Queen Bee." The Queen Mother said, "The jokes need to stop. You want to make a name for yourself in this life? You're not cut out for busting your gun and undercover operations. That's obvious. But you do have an incredible skill. You are good with chemicals." Rennie said, "Do I say thank you, or is that going to seem like a joke?" The Queen Mother said, "You say nothing until I ask you a question. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want to get your life together?" Rennie said, "Yes, ma'am." The Queen Mother asked, "Do you want to make your own money?" Rennie said, "Yes, ma'am." The Queen Mother said, "Do you want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet?" Rennie said, "Hell yeah." The Queen Mother said, Rennie said, "My bad." The Queen Mother said, "I'm going to pay for you to go back to college and finish your degree anywhere you want to go in the world. You have 2 years left, correct?" When Rennie said yes, the Queen Mother said, "And you'll finish it in a year and a half. No job, no boyfriend, no friends with benefits. You won't make any friends. You won't join a sorority, play on a sports team, or even join the Black Student Union. Every break between semesters and every long weekend, you'll be wherever I am. And before you ask, no, you don't have a choice. In exchange, I'll get the evidence that the Morenas have against you and keep you from going to jail for the rest of your life."